Hi, Karl, Ben, welcome to BizTalk. That's my great pleasure to be with me today. How are you?
Good,
Wonderful.
Max. Great to meet you.
Thank you very much, Max, for having us today.
All good. Absolutely all fine. Thank you so much. So, first of all, thanks for coming. And let's start with a little bit your background, who you are, who achievements we've done so far.
Sure, I'll start, Carl. That's okay.
Absolutely.
Look, I predominantly spent the last pretty much 20 years in IT in a support and delivery space, and that's been sort of my core background. It sort of stemmed into a management position, working for various different sectors, including government, technology, fast FMCG as well. So yeah, quite a vast range of experience in different industry verticals. So yeah, that's pretty much me in the last 20 years.
Cool. Myself, Max, I started in developer and hardware land, so I used to sort of build and ship servers out that we used to rent out to multiple companies, and then from there, I sort of worked across solution architecture and into CTO roles as well. So, like similar to Ben, very heavily in a technology background. And one of the things that brought us together was we had a very similar upcoming through our career, specifically around the rental space and also the IT sector. So we thought, well, why don't we use those experiences for something good, and hence why we started Kasu together.
Thank you. That's very interesting. So let's start talking about Kasu.
Absolutely. So Kasu, in an elevator pitch style, is effectively the world's first eco-focused peer-to-peer rental marketplace. Over the past 10 years, what we've seen is the meteoric rise of service-based companies like Uber, like Airbnb, offer up the opportunity for people, to have a passive income on the side, or completely change the way that they earn income as well. And they've been able to do that by offering a technology-first platform and letting the users bring the assets to the table. And we looked at these models and thought, it's a very successful commercial model. They've now obviously gone global. They've now sort of, opened the doors to how this thing should be run. But what we saw was the biggest factor was, really the entry into those areas can be, quite costly for people who are on the younger side as well. So we thought we'd start with, building an application that lets people rent not just, their house or their car, but anything else, as well to each other in the neighborhood. And I guess if we look at those problem statements as well, that first point really that I wanted to touch on is that, the entry into this rental economy does require like a large asset. So for example, if you're looking at, participating in Airbnb, the first thing you need to do is obviously, have that property available to rent out. And for people who are on, the younger side or even the retiring sector, that's not something that can often happen. The second thing that we also saw was there was really nothing on the sustainable side. So a lot of the factors, with things like Uber, there is obviously a good environmentally conscious driven way of using Uber, where you can say, well, that's saving me from buying a car and using petrol and everything else. But there was no real way to track it. And aside from the two global leaders and some other companies, if you were to go and rent something like tools or anything, you wanted to go down and rent a kayak or a ski at the beach, it's quite clunky and paper heavy. It requires a lot of ID processing. It requires a lot of manual payments. So we thought the solution for that was to build a mobile application that would, again, similar to Uber and Airbnb, effectively let people rent out anything that they have in their house that they're not using to a neighbor, to someone else in the neighborhood, for a daily rate, and at the same time earn points towards their eco rating. Now, the eco rating is something that myself and Ben have spent a lot of time in. Every item that we buy, as you know, Max, whether it's a laptop or anything like that, comes with an environmental impact. It costs waste and agents to basically build those assets. So everything that we do has an environmental impact. So myself and Ben thought, well, why don't we actually show people when they rent something off someone else and they don't buy it, how much waste that actually saves, how much carbon, how much water is actually saved when you're doing that, and then wrap that up into what we call eco rating, which is effectively a loyalty point scoring system. So the more you rent, the higher you're saving the environment, the better it is, and then you can obviously use those with a partner network with eco-focused companies to redeem as well. So again, the three core tenets that we had in mind with that were we wanted to build community. You might have people who enjoy woodworking. They might, do a lot of mechanical work. You might be able to borrow very niche tools that you would maybe have to travel a while to, or maybe you would purchase something and use it a couple of times. The other area, again, obviously that's big for a lot of people is that whole factor of making money from those items. They're sitting idle in your garage, in your house. And obviously the big core tenet that really is, I think, our core differentiator is we have a heavy emphasis on the environment and that impact as well. So that's where that eco rating loyalty platform really came in to us to sort of stand apart from some of the other competitors in the market, where we spent more time building up that eco rating to actually showcase to people, hey, this is how much waste you can save. And here is actually the positive impacts of what you're doing, and sort of, gamify that a little bit as well throughout the application. And what we've seen in the market is that we know that this market exists, and these are very specific to the Australian region. But, for example, on Gumtree, we have over 7 million people that simply, buy and sell secondhand items to each other. So, people will go there for a bit of a bargain, but it's become a very, very big marketplace where even now they're starting to look at the environmental impact of the secondhand economy, as they call it, although we're more heavily focused on the circular economy. One of the larger SMBs in the Australian market, Kennards, has over $383 million in annual revenue, and they're very focused on the construction sector. They have no mobile app. It's very paper-driven. It's very traditional and account-based. And Car Next Door, which is, again, a similar process, but only focused on the cars, has over 150,000 people using that platform as well. So we saw that there is a great need for this, but there's nothing that kind of aggregates all of it together into one mobile application as well. And again, from a market size perspective, we thought even by targeting, these very niche areas, there's a really large opportunity for us. Just furniture and appliance rental, for example, in Australia alone is a $5.8 billion market. And the bespoke sector, or on technology platforms as well, is over 1 billion. So our grab of the market we're aiming for initially is a $50 million, revenue, purely just based on the scales down and the pipeline that we're seeing through these sectors by bringing them all together. So we believe that there really is a really, really nice addressable market here as well, Max, that we can go after. Now, the big thing that we've done initially is kind of build the platform. So we had a bit of a solution of we will build it and they will come. So everything that you sort of see here is actually live. We're in an open public beta at the moment, which is available on iOS and Android. And what we really went for was a really clean, crisp UI that had, nice green undertones that's really pulled forward that environment factor as well. So you're able to then, pick a location. We geofence up to around a 20-kilometer perimeter because we figure we want to keep it much more in a neighborhood-based application, but you can push out further. You can search on the available dates, the categories, or you can also, do a fuzzy logic search that, hey, I need to drill between these dates that's in this category around this location, and then you can find the card and pull that up and find out who's renting it. So in this case, we've got Tim here who's renting something out for $5 a day. Then on top of that, again, it's a very simple process, 3 clicks to book, and everything is basically integrated with an existing payment platform as well. So we do direct handling. We take a 5% commission at this stage as we're looking to build out more revenue. And everything has been designed with the best principles that we've seen that Uber and Airbnb originally brought to the market, where it's just easy to get on board, rent something out. You've got a direct connection and messaging capabilities directly within the app. You can build a connection with someone, and we have an automated help desk that Ben's helped us to build as well behind the scenes if there are any disputes or any problems. And we also have the ability to, chase up any outstanding debts or any issues between any renters as well. So we've really built it to be very friendly and easy to use. And obviously, one of the big things we're looking in the future is to continue to drive forward with proper features and make it better and better, because obviously you can never stand still from that perspective as well. And again, the big thing here that I'll push again on the right here on the dashboard is that top tile. We created an integrated dashboard that actually showcases everything in one space. So a user can quickly go to their dashboard and see the full status of what they have in regards to inventory. They can see how much money that they've earned. They can see how much they've spent, when the next return is due, and also with the eco rating, that's the big core piece that we want to build out on that as well. So Ben, I'll probably let you speak a little bit more about that eco rating factor and what we want to do in the future too.
Sure, thanks, Karl. So Max, what we're looking to do, this is as Karl mentioned, it's a soft launch. It's probably our first iteration of the 2 apps. They've been really stable and solid thus far. But look, just on the eco rating piece, we really want to flesh that out more. We really want to incorporate the ability for the users to drill down into the eco rating and look at, how many liters of water have I saved this month? How many tons of carbon? How much energy have I saved? And also from that point, able to share that on social media so they can start to build up a bit of a trend and as Karl mentioned, gamify the results with their friends. We did an article recently about the environmental positive aspects of Kasu and how people are always, trying to struggle and come to terms with what they can do within the environment. And with Kasu, we've given them that ability to, obviously to rent and borrow and lend things out and attribute to the environmental impact or positive impact, within their ability. So that's our next iteration. That's on our development pipeline to really build that out a lot more, to make that a lot more of our focus. But as Karl mentioned, community focus, the ability to make money, basically building and generating a microeconomy, and then obviously saving the environment, which is what Kasu is all about. And I want to just reiterate that again. That's the differentiator between us and other rental platforms that we've looked at. And Karl and myself spent months looking at overseas platforms, local platforms, and just really sort of scrutinized them and pulled them apart and looked at the best aspects and obviously the negative aspects. And that's how Kasu sort of, that's how our roadmap sort of built from how people do things well and people, didn't do things so well. So that's how we got to this point.
Absolutely. And the big thing that we're now seeing globally, I guess, is a big trend towards, what the governments of the world are calling, net zero. And what's incredibly difficult is a lot of people would look at and have a bit of skepticism around, what does net zero mean and how is the government going to, drive towards that? And will that also mean that, hey, I'm going to get taxed a bit more to, achieve these goals, and what's going to happen? So the big effort that we put in here was really making sure this algorithm, is as accurate as possible. And it will actually showcase to people, hey, a lot of the time we're all guilty of it. Me and Ben, we spoke about this when we built the app. We will go out and buy something, use it once, and then it gets put away in storage and it never gets used again. And I think Kasu for us was also a way for people just to, have that small change and think about the habits that we have and how we can make a better change without really, having to sacrifice too much or take a big pivot to the left. I think by iterating something small, making a positive change and showing people the positive impacts, I think that's how you can, really make a difference by leading by example, as opposed to, getting the big stick and saying, hey, we're going to tax you more and take away more things away from you until we can get this net zero right. So we've got a big opportunity as well to speak with a lot of the local and federal governments within Australia as well to sort of present this back and integrate it to some of their systems too. And ultimately, what we've built is very API driven, which means that people will be able to, API into the eco rating. And we've built it as an engine that's going to continue to evolve as, more information and data comes to the light, using a lot of AI. So, the more things change globally, the more production methods become cleaner. We can make sure the algorithm's kept up to date and actually is accurate throughout the years as well. And that's part of our roadmap. Aside from that, I guess one of the other areas to talk about really is, okay, well, how does Kasu make money? Obviously, as a business, we need to make sure, we're doing that. At the moment, we have pitched previously on 10% commission. We've actually lowered that to 5% while we're ramping up. So through our soft launch, which started in June, through to now, we've acquired 150 unique users. We haven't gone directly to friends and family necessarily, which is what I know a lot of startup people will do to initiate with. We actually wanted to test this out in the market and get proper feedback from people in a non-biased way who are going to tell us whether or not they like that as well. And so that's really helped us to understand what we're doing well and what we're not doing well, enable us to build a proper pipeline, like Ben mentioned as well. And at the moment, the average rental price is around $25, means that at 5%, we're not taking a huge amount now. But again, our target is really growth and mindset change and getting people on board to really drive that forward as well. And again, the partnerships for us is a big thing. We want to partner with people who really do care about the environment, who can see the benefit in the eco rating, being able to redeem those points again. So if someone who wants to buy something from a closed provider who is, B Corp certified, and they really drive things forward with sustainable materials, they can then use that and redeem. So they're doing something good, they're earning points, and they can then use that to also help, a small, medium, or large business that has the right intent towards the environment as well. And we do a lot of work with, local markets as well to spread the word. Ultimately, we understand that, we're two founders. We've got obviously Tamsin on board for marketing. But ultimately, what we need to do is, really hyper target those suburbs and build out from there rather than trying to scattergun everywhere. We need to sort of build a good audience and push forward as well. So that's a little bit about Kasu, I guess, Max. I'd love to hear your feedback or any questions you might have as well.
Sure. First of all, thank you. Thank you very much. Very clear pitch. And I have quite a few questions, so we can start. Many platforms, more than renting, they buy and sell. Okay, you buy secondhand and keep it.
Yeah.
When it comes to renting, there is some kind of trust issue, right? So okay, I'm renting to you. Are you sure are you going to give me back my stuff, or maybe it's gone? How do you manage it?
So that was one of the items that we I wouldn't say we struggled with it, but we've really spent a lot of time diagnosing that, and that built and formed part of our terms and conditions. One of the things that we really want to stipulate to people that start using Kasu is, don't go and put something up on Kasu that is sentimental, that really means a lot to you, that's super expensive. Try something, test something that's not as important to you, something that you've got sitting in the garage that you use once a year. Throw that up on Kasu and see how that runs. The other piece that we focused on to make sure that is important is that we have a geofence. So you're basically renting from people in your neighborhood. It's not like you're renting from somebody 100 kilometers away where, let's be honest, if that item goes 100 Ks away, it's potentially going to get lost. So there's the geofence, so you're keeping it within in your community. And the second item is that we've built very, very similar to Uber is the user rating system and the compliments platform. So you can actually give people that you've rented and borrowed from compliments, and then you've got a 5-star rating, and you can leave them a comment if you like. So that then builds up that person's rating system, and that allows other users to get build a trust from that person and start to work out who's positive and not. We've got a close watch on items that get listed. We've got a really strong support framework that allows the users and members to contact the Kasu team and to discuss any issues or concerns that we have with or that they might have with the transaction. So we've followed a couple of good companies in that respect, like Uber and Airbnb. It's pretty much, our platform's very similar to Airbnb actually, in the fact that it's just not rooms. We rent items. So that's the rating system. But for example, Uber, some platform, you can trace, okay? Will be possible on your platform one day, if I'm renting to a guy, may I trace on your platform the day when I'm renting where the item goes and when it's coming back to me and when it arrives back to me? Will be possible one day? Or
absolutely. One of the things we've been looking at in the future is basically the QR code system, where we can ship people QR codes very quickly, or allow them to print QR codes that have a unique identifier within the database. So we can then see, right, when a rent is occurred, that person then needs to scan the QR code, which puts into an accepted state in the database, and then it needs to come back onto a returned back on the date as well. Before any rentals take place, the other area of security is people have to provide, a bank account with bank details, in order to actually participate on the platform. All payments are managed within Kasu, and we also have a full administration portal, which lets us, like Ben said, not only review items, but review users. So every time a new user signs up, they're reviewed by a human, they're reviewed by the team. And on top of that, before they can browse items, but before they can actually go forward and rent anything, they have to provide their bank details, and they have to provide a, basically clear photo of themselves prior to renting anything, as well as a valid mobile number that's validated through two-factor authentication and email as well. So we keep a full trace record of that person. We can understand straight away if it's, a bot trying to sign up and do something, malpractice-y, or if it's actually someone who's got a good reputation as well. So there's some of the core components, but you're right, Max, trust is a big thing, and we work very hard to make sure that there's always a human set of eyes looking over the items that are listed, as well as the people that are putting onto the platform as well.
It's very important for your customers, but it's also very important for you, right? If items got lost inside your platform, it's a very bad reputation for you. So for you, it's very important knowing that items come and go.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Max. Yeah, that just on that real quickly, that is a challenge for us, and that's something that we're really conscious of. And the fact that you mentioned it lightly before about the whole rental piece and borrowing pieces, borrowing off people. It's a mindset and a cultural shift within the community, and it's the same in every country that we've come across and that we've investigated. So being able to sort of get that mind shift to happen is only done through trust. So yeah, we're well conscious of that.
You can almost rent any kind of item, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Within reason, yes, but every item is actually reviewed to make sure it meets the terms and conditions. Obviously, we've got a few things, that are definitely a no-go, but everything before it's actually listed on the marketplace goes through a human review. So this is the other big thing, right? There may come a time when we can build something, with an AI image detection system that might be able to help us do that a lot quicker. But for now, we're more than happy to do it with our team, because we, like you mentioned before, trust and integrity, especially when we're growing a platform like this, are really the two biggest things that we need to look after. So we're happy to spend the extra effort to do that.
Yeah, because you never know people what they're renting to, right? So that's the point. So
that's right.
Exactly.
It's very important for you to make sure that everything rented or going to be rent is actually.
And from a legal perspective, yeah, we're very, our terms and conditions are very tight, and it does stipulate exactly what can and can't be rented on the platform. And we're conscious of that when we're reviewing the items too.
You have a big commitment with impact, okay? So, and in your platform, the most impact is how the product today is delivered, right? So, and this is what makes the most.
Yeah.
I don't think you are going to handle the supply chain. So you are going to handle the logistic behind door. And
no,
how does it work?
No, at this stage, so most of the, obviously during the beta, renting is done by, the users working out whether or not it's a drop off or pick up, so they can select either option. And if someone's happy to rent something out, then they're happy to drop it off. Fantastic. We have been looking at multiple logistics partners. So as you know, there's been a big rise in Amazon's new delivery system, for example, which is almost similar to Uber, but people actually can take deliveries. So we're looking at integrations with existing providers, but I think one of the big things we were looking at was, we wanted to choose someone that's actually running a clean fleet as well. That's another big thing for us, right? There's no point us, building a eco-focused platform and then delivering something, with huge diesel trucks everywhere back and forth, and it's not gonna really match up. So we are looking at, existing logistics platforms that have a heavy environmental focus and partnering with them for that, because then you're right, that kind of completes the supply chain where, hey, I can get on Kasu, I can borrow something, and I can also get it dropped off to me, with someone who's running an electric vehicle or an electric van, similar to what Amazon's now planning to do in America as well. So that's definitely in our roadmap. At the moment, it is definitely a user-to-user integration, but we do, looking in the future, want to partner with logistics partners. I don't think that's something we want to get into ourselves, though. We'd probably use an existing provider who has that expertise rather than trying to build a capability ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Max, it's uncanny, like the questions that you've asked. Yeah, these are stuff that we've discussed in detail. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, definitely an electric vehicle type company that would have a zero emission output.
I think the only partner you can get is someone who's very keen to be eco-friendly.
Absolutely.
Non-polluting. How do you target, and who are your main users, customers?
That's an interesting one too. So we've got a wide range of users. So we looked at our demographics, and we looked at who would be using Kasu. And we've found that, it ranges from, people in their, late teens, early 20s to retirees. So a whole range of people. You've got people that are at home, maybe on a single income, they want to make a bit of extra cash. They start listing their items on Kasu, or you've got, a younger generation, a younger type person who doesn't want to go and buy something, doesn't have the funds to go and buy something, and they can just go and rent it for their, for their use for the week or for the day. So look, it's a complete range of different people. It's been really hard to go, this is specifically targeted at one group of people. It's just not. And for us, I think it's a bonus actually that we can have a large user base of very different
Absolutely.
demographics. Yeah,
it is a double-edged sword. I guess, like I mentioned before, Max, one of the things we've been trying to do is obviously keep it contained within local sort of council areas to start with, so we can kind of control the demographic and really soak test in those areas. So we have been working with councils that do have their own green or eco or recycling drive as well, and sort of using them to help promote this app to the wider community with, I would say a fairly good success rate, especially around where I live in Northern Beaches area of Sydney. There's been a lot of positive uptake, a lot of people getting onto the platform and signing up thinking, hey, this is a really good idea. They're also conscious that, we are a startup and we're a growing market. We don't have, say, the depth of something like a Gumtree or an eBay with, millions and millions of items yet. That is the plan. However, we've had a lot of community support, and the best thing is the feedback that we get. A lot of our users have they're really good. They're good champions for us. They'll always turn around and tell us we've done something wrong, or what they think would be a good idea. Obviously, sometimes, as a startup founder, that can be hard to kind of filter out what's a good idea and what's just noise. But that's still, we would rather have people interacting than giving us, no feedback at all.
I mean, you're talking about quite wide range of targeting customers. How do you reach them? Because reaching 20 years old and reaching 50, 60, 70, it's pretty different.
Yeah, that's been a bit of a challenge. We've got a marketing partner that we've been using, and she's been busy trying different avenues of social media. So, Instagram, Facebook. We've been starting to put some videos together. We're doing some email marketing. And as Karl mentioned, in the deck, we're starting to, now that we're out of lockdown, we're starting to look at, getting out and meeting the people face to face and going to, fairs and different, stalls and eco-based events and just talking to people. I think that's going to be the best approach for Kasu, just to get the traction that it needs to really get people interested and to start driving the numbers up.
Absolutely. I think it was quite in a serendipitous way. It drove us to be a very digital focused initial marketing outreach, because we are obviously Australian based, and the majority of Australia at the time when we put the app into the app stores was within lockdown. So people couldn't actually go 5 kilometers outside of their house, and most people were a bit hesitant to rent anything to someone they'd never met before, during a COVID lockdown. So that forced us to be, more creative. And like Ben said, we onboarded Tamsin as, our marketing expert to really drive forward and target specific, expertise areas within social media and Instagram. So we did a lot of collaboration with existing tool libraries that the council were running. We reached out to a lot of eco-focused companies, showed them the idea, told them to get on board with the app and give us any feedback, and reached out to a lot of people who were members of, eco-focused groups within Facebook and Instagram. So we did a very targeted approach in that regards. Now that we're now moving out of a lockdown state, like Ben mentioned, it's now time to get out and sort of, drive it face to face, get out to markets, get out to events, get out to these local areas and really show people what we're doing on a community basis first. And once we've been able to, get good penetration in that local area, we can then start to step out and go, right, how do we then target, cities? How do we then target states? And obviously we want to take it internationally. So we want to then beta test this, in markets within Europe, within, the US as well. And because we have that technology background, we've been able to build the app to be so modular. We can pick it up and deploy it anywhere on Earth. With the infrastructure is easy to set up. The app is built to be, very easily swapped between different payment gateways and regulations, between Europe and the US. So it wouldn't take much for us to rework that to then take it overseas and just roll with it as well.
Yeah. There are quite a few applications in Europe, US, quite a few. They're doing something similar, I presume also in Australia. And I do believe the game changer is if you can make the logistic behind easier for them. So if I'm going to rent from you, and I need to handle the logistic after, it's got to be quite annoying for me, right? But if I'm going to rent from you, I receive an email, said, you know what, live there, I'm coming. And guys coming, we let you know when, I will collect, bring, you already have the money in your account, that's finished, right? And same again, when it's finished, we are the one who's going to collect and bring back to you. In this way, it's easier for me to rent because I don't need to handle the logistic. I'm pretty sure that the item will come back to me because someone is going to collect the day when it will expire and bring back the stuff to me. So it's very helpful for you. It's probably more costly because logistic, even if you have to give to third parties, which is you will, in any way you need to negotiate and you need to find a way to work together, but and find the right partner. Okay, but this is something that can help you a lot in terms of awareness, in terms of trust, and so on.
Yeah.
100%, Max. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because we know that's an area we need to get into and integrate with someone logistically. And if we look at when the circular economy first really kicked off prior to mobile apps, I mean, there was a big spate of it from 2008 after the first GFC through to 2013. The big thing that we saw where those companies failed was specifically that reason. And it was also the fact that most people would think, oh yeah, that's great, I could rent something, but I can also go online and click something on, Amazon or an online shop and have it delivered to me. And so that mindset really wasn't, oh, well, it's more of an inconvenience to go and rent something, as opposed to I can just buy it for nearly the same price, right? Because it's, and whether it was cheap crap or not, or wasteful, a lot of people didn't care, right? It was just more convenient. So I think you're 100% right. If we can nail that logistics part with also the environmental aspect and make it easy, and people that do care, I think you're right. It makes it a lot easier. Australia's an interesting country. Geographically, we're quite not as dense as somewhere like Europe, like yourself, you're from London. Yeah. It's a lot easier to run logistics somewhere there. But I think for beta testing it within the global market in Australia is really good for us. We can really prove those ideas out and showcase what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. You're on the fundraising now. And anyway, regardless the fundraising, how much you're raising, how are you going to scale up your business?
Absolutely. So the fundraising will be used into basically building out our BDR team to help us get some feet on the ground to really push and bring users into the app as well. There's a two-factor approach to this. The first is actually the acquisition of users. The second is also the acquisition of small to medium businesses that have existing rental companies that have bricks and mortar stores, but they don't have a rental website or a mobile app. So that will really help us with our inventory, because we're offering them a platform where they can easily scale up and handle all their bookings and all their item management directly within the application and our backend admin portal. So we'll have two teams of basically BDRs running forward with acquisitions of SMB and acquisitions of customers as well from that area. The second area is also then to beef up the marketing side of things. Ultimately, we want to bring on another person to help us with the marketing, one person to generate our content, the second to work on strategy and help us pivot where needed, especially in the digital space. The third aspect also being the development pipeline. So it would probably almost be a 33% split between those three. We've done pretty well. Myself and Ben have bootstrapped this to put out an app both on iOS and Android with the full eco rating capability and back end to support it. So our big focus now is to make the minor enhancements we need to really, smooth that platform out, work on a longer term roadmap for development, while at the same time building up our BDR capabilities and marketing capabilities as well.
I mean, what's your vision? You are the guy, you're entrepreneurs, right? So you have a vision for the next 5, even 10 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think in the next 5 years, we want to have this, as a global recognized organization. Like, we want people to think, hey, that's such a cool idea. And if it's, I think, like you said, Max, is easy enough and we have the funding and we can scale properly and make it easy for people where it's almost gamified and they can feel good because they are doing something good by renting and not contributing to landfill. We want people to really take this forward as, a cool app that, yeah, this is a great idea. And this is going to help, people globally really think about what they need and what they don't need, or when they need something and how long they need it for, sort of changing that whole concept of, ownership of things and being more environmentally conscious. So, within 5 years, we want to be global with this. We want to be well known, and we want to have, a really good partner ecosystem where people, love the eco rating. They want to, API into it. They want to use that data to help them also make, better environmental decisions with their businesses, with, their own companies. So that really is the goal from our side, Max. In 5 years, we want to, come back and talk to you when it's gone global. So yeah.
I even think just on that, Karl, like we really want to build out that, that eco rating and the mechanisms and algorithms behind that to make it that really a fine-tuned, all-encompassing volume of data that provides, statistics and data on anything and everything that anybody owns. So coming down from a power drill to a surfboard, exactly how much it costs to manufacture the impact of the environment and whatnot. So yeah, it's that's definitely something we've got to grow out as well.
I mean, it's interesting, the algorithm we were talking before, measuring the impact you are having, right? How much carbon has been burned in a day, and how much pollution has been lowered, and so on. I do believe it can be very helpful if one day I can run something, I know the history of this item, and I know how it's built, right? So I don't know. I'm not asking you to do this today because maybe it's very costly. I don't even know if technology allows to trace back to when the product was done. But yeah, this could be very helpful. But I do believe what you're doing in terms of tackling emission is very, very important. And waste by far is the worst.
Absolutely. And I think there are organizations now that are attempting to prototype things using blockchain about, tracking the supply chain and the impact as well. But I guess the other thing, Max, is, we all go into a supermarket and you might pick up some food and you can see how much, fat is in it, or carbs or sugars and anything else to make an informed decision. For me and Ben, it's like, well, why can't you go to a store and look at, okay, I'm going to buy this, this drink bottle, then why isn't there a sticker on there saying that this is how much, water and carbon and everything was used to reduce it? Why shouldn't we also have those, the capability to see that data in the future as well?
Absolutely. Let me close. Do you have any message for someone who wants to invest in your venture on Kasu, and why and how after investing they can exit? What's your exit strategy for them?
Our exit strategy is after 5 years, to then, well, I'd love to take Kasu public. I'd love for everyone to be able to have a chance to, own shares in this company and give it back to the community. I think anything I was going to say to potential investors is, myself and Ben have burnt, a lot of long nights, commitment without, pay for this, because we truly believe in the program. I think the two of us have been able to deliver a mobile app with a unique algorithm, and gain customers by ourselves with, simply as doing this on the side while we're funding it with our full-time job. So our commitment is second to none. And I think we've been able to do that in a very, very short period of time compared to a lot of people. I think that this is the way the future is going to go. If you look at governments, if you look at UN mandates, they are pushing net zero. They're pushing for everyone to be more green. For us, this is an opportunity for people to get in on the ground floor with something that we think is already proven with existing apps like Uber and Airbnb, like we mentioned before. We know the environmental desire is going to be there and driven by government. So it's not just funding from individuals, but there will be government funding. The CEO of BlackRock, I think the other day, came out and said that if something is not green certified or has a green mission, that he's not even going to touch it anymore, and that's the largest equity fund in the world. So I think our strategy is basically to continue to scale within Australia and then use that to leverage that information and that experience to take this global. Again, we can move this platform globally very, very quickly in under a month to any company, any country in the world. And we want to then, build up to a point where we can, exit that from an IPO and continue to work on it as advisors and look at the future as well for other ventures, because myself and Ben are, very heavily invested in this.
Ben, Karl, thank you very much for coming to BizTalk. It's been a very great pleasure for me having you today. And good luck with the fundraising. Good luck with bringing Kasu to IPO, which is, I do believe, any entrepreneur has to dream to IPO. That's the best you can do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for your time.